Okay. Now we've talked about the two types of exporting, which are the indirect exporting and direct exporting, which relies heavily on the one who is doing the export activities. So some do the exporting activities by themselves. Some ask for help from other companies. And those are the difference between the two type of exporting. Now we'll be looking at the documentation on exporting and importing, because it is very important to understand what are the required documents when we're doing the exporting and importing activities. And after that, we will be looking at the payment methods of these activities. So first, let's look at the documentation in export and import. So we'll be looking at the documentation when sending goods. All right. So in sending goods or exporting goods, we'll be needing to have a shipping bill, commercial invoice, packing list, bill of lading, foreign exchange control form, and terminal handling receipt, and as well as technical standard certificate. So these are the documents that are needed for the exporter before they send the goods, right? Before they send the stuff, their products. These are the documents that are needed. And then for the importers, mostly the same, like bill of entry. So the exporter need the shipping bill, and for the importer they need the bill of entry when they want to receive the products. And they will also need to have commercial invoice, packing list as well, so they will know which one is their products when they are receiving their products, and bill of lading, foreign exchange control, terminal handling receipt, certificate engineer's report, and the last one is cargo release order and product manual. So these are the necessary documents for the importers before they receive the products or the goods. These are just some of the most common documents. Some countries also requires more of these documents, and therefore we will be looking at some of the process of exporting in some of the countries in the world. First is the process of exporting in Indonesia. In Indonesia, this is the process. And here we can see after the preparation of the product, they will register in the Bea and Cukai, and they will also have the SKA in Indonesia here, okay? And also, if we look at the process of exporting in China, there is not so much different in here actually, because most of the exporting activities in China is very easy. And here you can see they use the advance payment in China mostly. Like in here, 30% of the payment has already been paid, and then the rest of the 70% will be paid in the final payment. And we'll be looking at the exporting process in Australia. So this is example of supply chains for the importation and re-exportation of alcohol in Australia. You can see they have a few declaration as well, and the Australian border where they try to check all the products coming into their countries, right? So some countries they have their own method in exporting, and therefore they will sometimes need a little bit of different documentation in their process. Now let's look at the export-import payment method. There are three main payment methods in export-import. First is payment in advance, next is open account, and the last one is letter of credit. There are more of this, but we will be talking about these three in particular in this session. First is payment in advance. So payment in advance means that the importer will pay first to the exporter before the exporter send the goods to the importer. So in here the importer will pay full to the exporter, and then the exporter will send the goods. This is like when we use the e-commerce in Indonesia, we pay the product first, and then we will receive the goods or the product that we buy from the e-commerce the few days later, because we already paid the product. And same in here, payment in advance is the process where the importer or the buyer pay the product first, and then they will receive the goods or the product from the exporter. So the payment is collected before the goods are shipped. It is very advantageous for the exporter because it will ensure the trade, because some exporters, when they receive some orders or some invoice, they sometimes doubt about the payment from the buyers. Will they pay our products or not, because we are in different countries, right? So this is very beneficial for the exporter, this payment in advance method. Next, however, this is very disadvantageous for the importer. Why? Because maybe the importer will be at risk when the exporter is a fraud exporter, for example, or maybe after the importer pay the product, the exporter takes very long time to send the goods. So sometimes importer doesn't use this type of payment because it's riskier, and it may cause a cash flow problem. For example, if this importer is a very big company and they want to have some kind of raw materials from the exporter, if they pay first, they may have cash flow problem when the goods or the products that they have ordered arrive late in their countries. So this is some of the disadvantages for the importer. So this is very unpopular for the importers, this payment method, because it's sometimes riskier, except for the trusted exporter. For example, an importer has already built a very good trust with the other exporters. This will be this is the exception of this payment, because the main problem in this method is just the trust issue. And also some exporters insist on using this payment. However, they tend to lose in the competition, because only a few importers prefer this type of payment. So here we have another type of payment, which is the open account. Well, open account is the exact opposite of this, of the payment in advance, where the exporter will send the goods first, then after that they will receive the payment. Alright, so the payment is collected after the goods are shipped. However, this is only advantageous for the importer to ensure goods quality and quantity. For example, when they receive the product, they have maybe a broken product, or maybe the quantity is not as what has been ordered. So they can hold the money until the exporter maybe make a correction or resend the goods or the products. And this is very disadvantageous for exporter because it is riskier. Maybe some importer can only pay half, but the products have already been delivered to the importers. So but this also may cause cash flow problem to the exporter, and also some of the payment issue. So this type of payment method is very unpopular with the exporters, except for the trusted importers. So it's exactly the opposite of the previous type of payment. And the exporter who insists on using this tend to have solid payment structure. So they have a very solid system in payment, and they also have loyal customer usually. For exporters who are using this type of payment. Now we can see that these two type of payment are not very suitable for the newcomer in export and import industries. So we will have the third type of payment, which is the letter of credit. So this type of payment is very safe, and it is very recommended for the newcomer in the export import industry. So how does it works? So first, the buyer or the importer and the seller or the exporter will make a sales contract where they will have each of them their own banks, and their contract will be looked after. So they will have a contract with each of their banks, and the banks will be their middleman in their payment and their product shipment. So the letter of credit is a contract between the banks and the buyer, for both buyer and seller. In this case, is the exporter, the importer, to protect their interest. It means that the bank will protect the importer's product, and the bank will protect the exporter's payment. So this is the meaning of letter of credit. And this method is safer because virtually all banks have established relationship with correspondence bank around the world. So mostly banks have established relationship in any other foreign countries, so they can contact each other, and they are trustworthy. However, both importer and exporter need to have a good credit worthiness to the issued bank. Why? Because not all banks want to help new importers or new exporters. They need to have a very good credit from the bank's perspective, so that the bank will provide the assistance for this exporter and importer. And also, this letter of credit is an extensive work, and therefore it may be fairly expensive method. So maybe the buyer, the importer, and the exporter will have to pay more money because of this type of payment, because they give safe and security for their product and for their payment, and therefore they need to pay more to the bank. So this is the last type of method of payment. So conclusion. In this session, we have been looking at what is exporting. We know exporting is one of this entry strategy where we sell and distribute our products or service to other countries. We have looked at the two types of exporting, the indirect exporting and direct exporting. We have looked at the process in exporting that includes the exchange in goods, documents, and money, and some of the documents included in the export-import. And also, we have looked at the three payment methods in export-import, which are payment in advance, open account, and letter of credit. So that's all I can share with you for this topic. Hope you all learn the most from this session. Thank you very much.